Alright guys, today I'm going to make a quick little video on how you can make water levels with like water and as well as how you can create ladders in your levels. I'm also going to have a small little transition there, but that's kind of general. Basically just going to make this video because I've been kind of busy lately, so I just thought of something quick. Yeah, it's going to end up looking like this so that you can climb the ladder, and I'm just going to add a little transition that basically just changes the map. This map has no relevance, but you can change it to whatever map that you have and stuff like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and see how it's done. Alright then, so this is actually a very simple thing to do, but it was not obvious to me in the beginning, so therefore I just wanted to make this little video for those who don't know. It does not really matter what operating system you're on, whether you're on Windows or Mac or even Linux, should be the exact same. The files we're going to be using this time are basically only the map. You don't need to script anything. I'm just going to add a little script for the transition at the end, but that is not part of the water or the ladder, so you can just use the level itself if that's how you want. The script is, of course, you're likely going to have some script in your map anyways, so I'm just going to add a little bit for the little transition we have. Otherwise, we are not really going to use anything else, so yeah. Let's just start by opening the level editor. I have it here. You should know where to find that. I'm going to open the map that I prepared. It's basically the same as in the example, except I stripped it of all of the things. So all we have now is just a room with a light and a spawn point. The ladder, you don't need the ladder. You can, because you're not actually climbing the ladder. You're just climbing an area in front of the ladder. So you, like, if you have like a bookshelf, you could climb the bookshelf if you like to do that. Except ladders are usually used because ladders are pretty obvious that you're able to climb. So it just makes it easier for the player to know that you're able to climb it. Of course, if you make it climbable. But first of all, let's start with the water. So I'm gonna split it up since I have this little branch sticking out here in the room. I'm gonna make two areas. You can make just an area across the whole thing, but I'm gonna split it up because there's a little something I'm gonna show you. It's not really important, it's just if you need to cut it. Anyways, to make the water, you go on the area tab and select the one called liquid, and from here on you probably already know how this works. So it's pretty simple. All you need to do is just drag an area of liquid over your room. So I'm just gonna split it up right here until there and give it a little height. So that's actually pretty high. So let's resize that a little bit. Something like that. Alright, so there we go. I just wanted to make it a little more precise. Anyways, so there we have our area, and this is what you're actually colliding with. So as soon as the player steps into this area, it's going to make splashing effects, and I think you're moving a little slower as well in the water. So you're basically, this is the water itself. It doesn't look like the water, but it is the water, and it also makes the splashing things, the splashing particles when you jump and stuff like that. So we have that. And now I'm just going to duplicate it and move one area over here. I'm going to have to resize that quite a bit. Approximately like that. A little bigger. Let's just resize it like that. And there we go. So here we have two areas. You can just make this area extend all the way over there if you'd like. But I'm just going to make two areas because usually when you're making a map, it's good advice to always keep as few things in your map as possible. And I mean, this is just like if you have this plane, for example, if you have that stretched all over there, there's going to be a lot of it outside the map that is not even necessary. So it basically just makes the map a little less optimized because it requires more time to load the files out here, and you're not even seeing them anyways. It's always a good idea to cut it off as many items as possible to make it fast loading and all that stuff. Anyways, so here we have the area. This is what you're splashing in as well, as I said. To make it look like the water, you want to go on the Primitives tab and select the water plane. This one is found in Textures, Water, and here are a lot of water. These are all animated already, so you can make a custom one if you'd like. I might show that. I don't know. It's pretty simple, but I guess I could show that towards the end, how you make a custom water texture. Anyways, I'm gonna select a water sewer matte file. Basically, this is just another plane. I'm gonna go up in height of the grid so that I place it about the height of the area top, and then I'm just gonna drag the area over here like that. And that did not register apparently, so I'm gonna do it again. There we go. So here we have our water. So this is what the water looks like. Let me extend it a little more. Yeah, all right. So this is what it looks like. It's quite deep actually, but oh well, let's keep it. This is the water, and one thing you need to make sure of: go on the Primitive tab and turn off collides, or else you'll be able to be Jesus and you'll be able to walk on the water. So like, you don't want to collide with this kind of plane. It's just water, you walk through it, you don't step on it. Otherwise you can just keep these the same, although there's one thing here. I'm gonna mention that in a second. So I'm gonna duplicate this area and place one that did not duplicate it. God damn it. There we go. So I'm gonna place this area over here and make it match the other area I have. Make it as small as possible, because you know, optimizing it is always a good idea to make it run better on slower computers. Anyways, here we have now we have the map filled with water for as much of the area that you're actually able to see. Nothing outside, although you can put it outside. It doesn't make too much difference, this little part. But you know, I like doing it that way. But there's one thing. Since there are two areas now, if you have a map that you need to cut up the area into a lot of smaller pieces instead of one huge one, then you might notice that they don't intersect too well. It's kind of hard to notice exactly in here. I don't know if it's actually, I don't think it's noticeable. However, the texture on this one does not match up with the texture on this one, so they don't intersect very well, because like, they start at relative position to themselves. But you want the texture to have a global spawn point or start point or whatever you want to call it. And to make that, you want to go on each of these and you check off Align to World Quartz, and it will slightly change where the texture is located on the plane. But it basically makes so that no matter how you stretch it, or move it, it's always going to be the same texture in that location. But if you have it off, then the texture is going to move along with the plane. It's actually easier to show if I have another texture. Let's go static objects. Let's just go to castle base. Let's select this one. And that one looks really weird because it's outside the light area. Let me just turn on this. Alright. So here we have this. You move it, the texture moves along. If you turn on this thing, the texture does not move along with it, so it'll always be the same in that location. And therefore, if two of these are next to each other, they will always match up correctly in the texture. But if both of these were off, then it would look like that, and they would cut off pretty bad, or intersect or transition. So that's basically how that works. Anyways, that is all you need to do for the water. And also I'm gonna turn off the collide. Yeah, that's already off. So that's all you need for the water, and it should be able to work. You just splash around with that if you like. Now let's go ahead and make the ladder. It's the same kind of thing. You go on area and you select a ladder area, and just make sure it's somewhat big, because when you make this area, sometimes you're not able to click it if it's too small. Sometimes you're not able to climb it because it might collide with something. So just make sure it's big enough and that it doesn't crash or anything. So a size that I recommend for this area is like if you have the grid on 0.25, 5 of those times 5, so 5 by 5 by how tall you want it to be. Basically, if you just click once, it'll make the area 4 by 4. So I just like extending it a little bit like that, and place it in front of the ladder. You don't want it to be in the ladder, because this is this in the middle of this is the point where you're actually stuck to along the green arrow, this one. So also make sure that you rotate this so that make sure that the blue arrow that is pointing here is pointing away from the ladder, because you'll be facing the opposite direction of the blue arrow. So if you make it the blue arrow turn that way, you'll be looking the other way when you're climbing up, and that looks weird. So make sure the blue arrow is pointing away. Let's see, I think this one is like 2, 4. Oh, it wasn't. Oh well, I thought it was 4 by 4 when you created by default. Anyways, just make sure it's, yeah, as I said, big enough. You could, I believe you can make it pretty big, but that just makes it more of an area to click with, but you're still climbing in the middle of it. So once you have your area, of course you're gonna have to make it as tall as you want, because let's just make it something like this. It's pretty tall. Alright, that should be good. So you don't even need to name it or anything. One thing you can do though, if you go in the area tab on it, you can select what kind of material it is, whether it's metal, wood, or rope. In this case it's wood. That's just for the sound it makes as you climb it. Alright, so that's a pretty tall area. I'm gonna extend it a little bit just to be sure. Like that. That's a pretty good size. That's kind of the size I want. About the size of the ladder itself, like that way, and then it could be the same size in both X and Y, and then it can be whatever you want in, oh, I mean X and Z, not X and Y, X and Z, and then it can be whatever you want in Y. Alright, so here we got our ladder area, and you're now able to climb it, and that's all there actually is to it. And I'm gonna add a quick little transition up here, although this is not part of the actual ladder water thing, but I'm just gonna skip up here and create a very simple script area. And that is not a script area, that's a ladder area, so I'm gonna have to change that. There we go. So I'm just gonna move that in the middle of where you actually climb, like that. So let's say whenever you're colliding with this one, it's going to change the map or whatever. So whatever you want to do, because if this ladder does not lead anywhere, if you want to change the map, then you can do that like that. Right, so I'm just gonna name the area fade out. Press enter, because it's not gonna change the map instantly, it's gonna fade out first. Other than that, that's everything we're gonna have in the map. Now, one thing that I guess I shouldn't mention, if you have this hole kind of the same style as how I have it, if you have fog enabled in your map, or if you have a fog area around here, and you look directly out in the void, which I am doing, then it's going to screw up the camera a bit. It's going to look really trippy and weird. So if that is the case, just place a plane over here to block off the void around here, because yeah, fog and void does not go well together if you don't have a skybox enabled. So however, I don't have fog in my levels, so however, I do like to have a fog area just to fade it out so that it looks like it's faded here, but that's of course preferences. You can do that if you'd like. Anyways, now I'm just going to save the map, and let's jump over to the scripting. So for the scripting, I'm just going to mention real quick here, I'm going to be using the script functions that are found on this page, the engine scripts, which is linked in my description if you like. And also you can copy my code that I will provide in the description if you'd like to copy it. But however, I do recommend if you write it yourself, that you write it yourself, because you learn a lot more from actually doing it instead of copy pasting. So you get a little more practice. Anyways, I'm going to be using those that are found on here. So if you're using any functions, you don't know exactly how they are required to be, you can just Command F or Control F and find it on this page and just look at the parameters and fill it in. However, I remember the ones I'm going to use, so I'm just going to write them in directly. But if you need any more info on the functions I'm going to use, you can just look them up on the page. Alright, so now I'm going to go to the map, and this is the map file with the ladder and everything, and this is the script file. So I'm going to open that. It's basically just empty. So I'm just going to start by typing void on start parentheses and braces. So basically this is a very basic function that everyone should probably have in their map. I don't know, it's not required, but you probably already know what this is. So anyways, on here I'm going to, once you start the map, I'm going to add a check, which is basically going to execute an event as soon as you collide with the script area I have up in the ladder. So the function for that is add entity collide callback. So you can look that up on the page and copy paste it and fill in the parameters if you'd like. However, I'm just going to type them down. So also don't forget to have the semicolon at the end of this and the parentheses, of course. So inside here, first one is a string, so put double quotes. Inside there you want to write the name of the first entity that's going to collide, which is the player. The next one is also a string, and this is the area or the entity that the player or the first entity is going to collide with. In my case, area fade out. Be aware of capitals. The third one is another string, and this is the function that's going to be executed as soon as these two entities collide. So I'm going to just call it transition. And then there are two more parameters. The next one is a true and false boolean, whether this check is going to happen multiple times. So if you put it to true, it'll delete itself once executed, so it'll basically only happen once. If you have it to false, it'll execute every time you re-enter. So in this case, you could probably just keep it false, because it won't really make much difference unless you're returning to the map. So it's probably a better idea to keep it false, actually, so that if you're ever going back to the map with the ladder, you can still climb up and execute the event and go back. So I'm going to put it to false, even though it doesn't make a difference if you're only doing it once. And the last one is when it happens, whether you're entering or exiting the area, and I'm going to put it to 1, and that means entering. So when player collides with the area up in the ladder, it's going to execute transition. Now transition we haven't made yet, so we're going to have to make that. So just type void and the name transition, and then you got to type the parameters of the function that is calling it. So this is an add entity collide callback function, so you want to type the parameters of this thing. This is the syntax basically. So I remember them, but if you don't, just go copy paste them. That's what I usually do if I don't remember them. In this case, it's string and in as parent, string and in as child, and int al state. And those basically just define the parent entity, the child entity, and the state of how it executes. Now in here I'm going to add fade out 1 second. That's the basic. That's how fast it usually fades out when you're entering a level door. So that's 1 second. So I'm going to make it somewhat similar, and it's basically just gonna, as soon as you collide, it's gonna fade to black within 1 second. It's also going to add a timer. Timer has no name. It executes after 1 second, and the function it's going to call, I'm going to call it timer transition. So basically it does the same thing as the fade out. After 1 second the screen is black, and after 1 second it's also going to execute this timer, which is going to actually change the map. So make the function that you defined in the timer void timer transition, And then the parameters of the timer, if you don't remember, go copy paste them from this engine scripts page. String and in as timer. And braces to open and close the block. Always be sure that you always close the blocks you open, don't have any errors like that. Be very careful with typos as well, because typos are the worst thing in scripting, because it's so hard to figure out where it is. Alright, so in here we're just going to call the function called change map, simple enough. It has 4 parameters, they're all strings. The first one is of course the map you're going to load, so just type whatever map you want in here. I'm just going to choose a random map I have, which is level 12. And the second one is the start position. If you keep this empty, you'll basically just spawn in the first, or the spawn area in your map that is close, that is basically found first, and it goes through alphabetically. So basically, if you have area A, it's going to spawn out area A before area B. So anyways, I'm just gonna keep it empty and it'll just spawn me in the level, because I only have one area anyways. The 2 next ones you can also keep empty. This is basically, if you're changing the map, you can have a sound file as you exit the map and as you enter the next map. So in the first of these 2 last, in the first one, you can type a sound file name, and it will play that sound as you leave, and it will play in the last one, it'll play a sound as you spawn in the next level. So it's basically like a door, you know, it makes a loud noise as you go through a level door. So you can simulate that effect with these. However, a ladder doesn't really make much noise, so I'm going to keep it empty, and therefore it'll be quiet. So you only need to define which map you're going to spawn in, really. And that is all the script we're going to use, so I'm going to save the map, close it, the script file, and now we're going to run up Amnesia and see how it looks. Should be okay. I don't think I forgot anything about, like, if it crashes, then I might have done something wrong. I didn't. But if I do ever forget any parameters, I usually just go look it up on the page or just copy it. So this is the map. You can just have a water monster. If you just place a water monster somewhere in your map, it'll be following you around. It's not dependent on water really. It just walks around at the altitude you place it on. So even if if there's no water, it'll still be splashing around. So it'll look weird if there is no water, but it's possible. Also the areas intersect here, as I showed earlier. They transition nicely, and you can walk around here, you can splash around in the water like that, and then you can climb the ladder, of course. Just click it, and yeah. So that is actually all for this quick little tutorial, which probably wasn't that quick, but anyways, that's all I had to say about that, I think. If you need any help, feel free to ask, post a comment or whatever. I do read all of them, and I try to help you if you need anything, so yeah, just do that if you need any help. Also, if you like the tutorial, then I would really appreciate if you would like the video. It motivates me to make more of these tutorials. And yeah, other than that, there was not really anything else, so I will thank you for watching, and I will see you later. And one thing that I nearly forgot, I was going to show how to make a custom water texture. So first of all, you would of course need a PNG, JPEG, or any other file format. Well, I don't think all work, but PNG and JPEG should be fine. Just find a texture that is water, of course, and try to make sure that it also transitions next to each other, so that they could be 2 next to each other without it looking weird. I'm not actually sure about this one, I just found it, so I'm not sure if this one will work, but it might. Also make sure that the resolution is a cubic resolution, so it should be 512 by 512 pixels or 1024 by 1024. This one is 1024 by 1024, so just make sure it's not 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels, because that is usually not a good idea when it comes to technical stuff in the games. So anyways, let's go back to the Amnesia. Actually, I'm going to open an editor called the Material Editor. So make sure you open the Material Editor right here, And what you want to do here, well, actually, first of all, go to your custom story, and you need to place your file in there, of course. So I'm going to place it in textures. I just have this folder. You just need to place it somewhere in your custom story. And what the hell did I just do? I placed that there. I should not have done that. Oh well, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, as soon as you have it in there, you click on diffuse under here in the material editor. You can open a file. This is how you open the PNGs. Just locate it. Textures. Was it not? There it is. For some reason I didn't see that. Water.jpg, and just load it up, and it'll be invisible to start with. So you want to go on type and make it water, and basically this is how it looks now. And if you'd like to make the preview box a plane instead of a box, you can change that right here. It'll look like water now. Basically this will just add the effect of reflection and slight movement to it, so it'll work a lot more like water. And otherwise, I guess you could change some of the blend modes. I'm not sure what all of these do with water, if they even do anything. I believe if you have semi-transparency in your file, you should probably use alpha. This one is not transparent at all. However, the water effect makes it somewhat transparent, I think. So yeah, that's basically all you need. Just make it a water, and you can also make the physics water, so that it actually is water. Anyways, otherwise, go on File, Save As, and you will be able to save the .mat file. So you can just save that in the exact same location. I'm gonna call it water. Actually, I'm gonna call it, yeah, let's call it water. But just make sure that the file doesn't match any name of any other file in your Amnesia root folder, because it might confuse them. Right, so you can close that now, and if you go to your textures folder, you should have the water.mat, which is just the file defining everything for this file. So if you were to open up your level editor right now, you can, let's go back down, you can click on the water surface or water plane, go on primitive and select whatever texture you want. So I'm going to go back to Amnesia, custom stories, and textures, and select this one, and it'll look like this. This looks kind of strange, kind of funny actually. It looks like an aquarium or some shit. So just make sure you do that on both of them. So I'm going to do it on this one. It's actually turned out pretty nice, I must say. I was not expecting it to be this cool. Anyways, maybe it does not fit exactly into this sewer map, but that's basically how to make your custom water textures if you'd like to do that. This one is maybe a little too high resolution, I think, because as you can see, it's very pixelated. But oh well, you should be able to edit your textures and make them nice. So just place it in there. If you want to make sure that this is actually following when you're exporting the custom story, just make sure the file is found. Damn it, phone! That the file is found in your custom story folder, obviously. And yeah, that was everything that I needed to say about this. And so yeah, I guess this is a true ending now. I'll thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.